Welcome to Public Forum, a community outreach program produced at North Idaho College on the shores of Lake Coeur d'Alene. Featuring guests from around the globe addressing a wide variety of subjects, Public Forum serves to educate and enlighten. Please join host and moderator, political scientist Tony Stewart, in welcoming today's guest.
As you regular viewers know, it's very much a tradition on this program to oftentimes do a two-part series and sometimes even longer. And this week and next week we are getting that format of a two-part series. We're going to be talking about a new book that's coming out, Kaleidoscope, a collection of tantalizing tales. And there's really a great story not only about this book and the different stories that are in it, but also how this is tied to helping children with a great fundraiser that is coming up. And so we're very fortunate to have this week 3 guests, and next week we'll have 3 guests to discuss this exciting book and what that relationship is to helping our young people. I first of all welcome to the program Tom Murphy. He is the CEO of Veers, which is a domestic and imported beverage company, and he's been very instrumental in putting all this project together and helping that organization. Welcome, Tom. It's great to have you on the program.
Thank you, Tony.
And I'm equally pleased to have 2 other guests. First of all, I will introduce Tinka Schaefer. She is the first vice president of the Children's Village Foundation, as well as the development director. And Tinka, we know your organization is going to benefit greatly by the publication of this book, and welcome to our program.
Thank you, Tony. We're so happy to be here.
And we're so pleased to welcome back a guest from the past. She's been on our program several times, really a great author, Patty Dickinson. And we've interviewed her about one of her wonderful books in the past, and she's also involved with this book and having stories in it, and she is also the vice president of the local chapter of the Idaho Writers League. Patty, interviewing you is always a pleasure. You bring, like you do in your books, you bring stories to life. And
thank you, Tony. It's wonderful to be here.
And it's always, I'm so pleased to have Janelle Burke, our regular panelist, and she will commence today's questioning.
Let's begin with you, Patty, and can you tell us how this project came to be, please?
How it came to be, I think, is a real good demonstration of synergy. I, as Tony mentioned, am the program director also for the local chapter of the Idaho Writers League. So last December, I assigned our members to write children's stories. Well, I heard, I don't write children's stories. I'm a mystery writer. I write romance. And I said, that's fine. Write a children's story. It'll be good for you. So at the December meeting, we each read our stories, and they were so good, and laughed and cried, and I thought, what a shame if these stories never get heard by children other than maybe a lucky child or grandchild. So what to do? I called the Children's Village and asked Tinka, what would you think of the members of our chapter coming over and reading to your kids? And she was very gracious, of course, and she said, we would love it. So we did. During the month of December, a lot of our members went over, and some read at the Miller House, some read at the Moyer House, and the kids enjoyed it only slightly more than we did. We really enjoyed it. Well, then I was at a luncheon, a fundraiser for the Children's Village, and I happened to mention to Marge Murphy, who designed the cover of the book, oh, gee, we're doing something fun with the Children's Village, just an offhand remark, which she went home and told Tom. And then it kind of took off from there. But what happened is we have an anthology of stories, about 20 of them, written by the various authors in our local group. And that's what makes up Kaleidoscope.
And there's stories about children. And Tom, can you tell us how you became interested in this? Now, Patty sort of told us a little bit about how you became interested, but you have a deeper philosophical understanding of why people should be interested in this kind of thing.
Well, first of all, I feel very fortunate to have been able to stay in business for 20 years today. And our employees and the other members of our organization feel very strongly that we need to give back to the community in some way. And my trigger mechanism for focusing on the Children's Village is simply was created by another person yet, Mr. Moyer, Sr., that taught me something that I never looked at it in a perspective that he did. It's a bit cruel in some sense, if you can focus, his comment, if you can focus on the children, in 2 or 3 generations, you can achieve a position in society you could never gain by incarceration.
That's true.
So we feel it's money well spent, and we watch and we know how the village spends their money. They're very, very cautious and frugal. And so we really feel excited about trying to develop this into a significant amount of money for the village.
So the book would be sold to benefit the village. And some of our viewers may be asking out there, what is the Children's Village? And Tinka, you can explain that to them.
Thank you,
I'm sure.
Janelle. It's a licensed residential treatment facility, and we've been open since 1990. It was a brainstorm of 3 parents, one a principal at a local school, who kept seeing children that were abused and often moved around within the system, and she promised a little girl, someday I'll build a home that doesn't move so that children can stay at with some permanency so they can attend their same school, have their same friends, and not be so disrupted. And that door opened in 1990 of our first home, which we did name after the Moyer family due to a large contribution. And some of the programs that we have, Janelle, are we have a crisis nursery, and that shelters little infants and toddlers that might be at risk kind of a situation. And we do 24 hours around the clock for law enforcement who need to shelter a child that's in a risky situation. We provide homeless services for families that are, for various reasons, not able to provide for themselves. And then we do child protective services. And then in 1996, we opened our second home, which is residential treatment for children that have been identified seriously emotionally disturbed due to sometimes their past and sometimes genetic reasons. And that facility now is called the Miller Home. And so we have those 2 large homes on 15 acres, and we're licensed to care for 22 children at one time, birth to 18 for the most part.
So, done so well and very summarized very clearly. And I would just add that this home is in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. In fact, when there was, to back up very quickly, there was a young girl and a young boy who were in a very difficult situation. They were going to separate them, send them different homes, and that principal did a show with me at the time and said, I promised those children we'll build this home. So this program has a history with that too, in that way, just when she announced that that's what she was going to do. Tom, I'm going to come back to you with my first question, and that is, I know you're very modest about this, but you have been a very great financial strength to the Children's Village, and you're deeply involved with this project. And this program is airing just shortly before this great event where you're going to unveil the book, and you're going to have a great, great function. But before I ask the question, I'm going to show just the cover of this book. It's beautifully designed, and Patty, you might also give this great honor. I'm going to turn it over, and the other side, and the cover was designed by?
Marge Murphy, Mrs. Tom Murphy. She's a very talented artist, and she's equally involved with the village, and I could see no other person that should do it.
Very attractive.
Yes.
Now with that, Tom, tell us about this special event. I'm sure you may, by the time this airs, have sold out, I don't know, but it'd be great to hear from at that event a story or two from this. And I guess for those who are great connoisseurs of wine, what an incredible function it's going to be. So give us the details.
Well, we can't decide whether we want to do French and German wine yet. I don't know if that helps, but we do carry them along with wines from all parts of the world, and there'll be from 4 continents wines shown at this tasting. And we used to, originally, this was done on an annual basis, but it's now done on an irregular basis. We've gone, I think, 3-4 years now since we've had one. And it's geared toward the upper scale end, and people who have the opportunity to taste wines that they may not even be able to buy in the marketplace because of the rarity of them. Yet there will be ample wines there that are good values. When they see them in the marketplace, they'll be familiar with them, and it's an enhancement to us, of course.
Yeah, and in addition to tasting the wines there, will wines be for sale too?
No, wines will not be for sale there.
They're just, it's a great time to become educated to the quality of wines that you will have.
And there'll be a booklet given to every person that will allow them to make notes so they can refer back to them And when they get in the marketplace, wine is very difficult. It takes a lot of homework to understand it because there's so many choices.
Yes. Now, this is going to be held at the Coeur d'Alene Resort.
Coeur d'Alene Resort. Mm-hmm.
And the date again for that?
The weekend of, I think I have the date right, it'll be the Saturday, I believe the 16th. Does that sound correct?
17th.
17th.
Is Saturday.
17th. We have trade events coming in the prior day to that. That's why I use those 2 days. But there'll be.
And then, of course, tickets are for sale.
Tickets will be for sale at the resort 30 days prior if there's some left.
Okay. And yeah, as I said, this program is airing in early May. With that, Patty, I want to come back to you. And I got it on the inside of this story just before the program that Tom was announcing what you were going to do. So why don't you share a little bit about, in addition to being able to taste all the great wines and the profits going to the Children's Village Foundation, tell us something about the program that people, in addition to the wine, they're going to get
well, we're going to debut the book that night. This is the debut performance of the book, and the authors are very excited about it. There's about 20 authors represented in this anthology, and that night we will have every author will have autographed the book. So, and the name of it is Kaleidoscope, and I'm going to let Marge tell you about that. That was her idea. Great idea, too.
She's on the program next week.
Yes, she's coming next week. But anyway, they'll have an autographed copy by every author in the book. And there's some great stories. And that night, there are several events that are going to take place during the time at which the book will be featured. So, but that's its debut. And I mean, what a debut.
Now, my other question, because we're getting into the content of the book, which is very important to this program, and that is, you indicated, I believe there are 20 authors, about 20 authors.
Yes.
And you're one of them.
Yes.
And all the others members of the Idaho Writers League?
Yes, they are. In other words, this is, well, for one thing, our Idaho chapter of the Idaho Writers League, this is the 60th anniversary of our founding. We were founded in 1943, and we're still going. And so this is part of our celebration of our 60th year, taking on this project. Writers write to touch people. How better to touch people than through a project like this? So we have Louise Shattuck, for instance. Louise is an icon.
Well, she is an institution.
Okay, icon institution, right?
Yes, she's remarkable.
She'll have a story in here.
Okay. Can you identify a few more for us?
Yes, well, I have a story in there. We have people like Louise Shattuck who've been writing for a long time, and then we have a young woman who's almost new to our chapter, less than a year. Tomia Browning is her name, and she's written a story that takes place in 1957 about the only girl on an all-boy baseball team and this big playoff. It's just a charming story. I remember I told Tink about it, and it resonated with her because she was the only girl on an all-boy baseball team. But my story is about a cat who is a spy. He is the Northwest director of the Fearless Feline Bureau. And
Fantastic.
and then we have a story about a kind of a Western theme about this young man who wrestles a kangaroo in Australia, and then a young woman takes this fantasy trip. We have a spaceship. We have a charming story about a conspiracy that takes place in Montana. I mean, really, the stories are as different as the people who wrote them, and that's what's great about an anthology.
And since it's for children, although adults can.
Oh, yes.
Well, all adults have some child in them, and
that's right.
So
we
they
hope.
can enjoy it.
Right.
But are the stories targeted towards a particular age group?
Yes, they are. I would say that we aimed it at the 9 to 14-year-old because that's a good selling market, and it's meant to be. And I feel that it is. It's a first-rate book that's going to compete with all other children's books on the market.
Well, before I go back to Janelle, I have to have a commitment out of you, and I have this on record, that once this is over and the function's over, we will have some of you back, and we will read some of the stories on this program.
They would
That's
love
a commitment you'll be willing to make.
Honest.
Okay, thank you. Janelle Berg.
Well, my first question is going to be, how can people get one of these books if they can't attend the function, but they would still like to have one of the books? Tinka, can you answer that question?
We're more than happy to tell you that we're going to have it posted on our website, which is www.thechildrensvillage.org. When you get to our website, after the book is released, you'll click on Kaleidoscope, and it will show you how to even do PayPal online, so you can order it right online if you'd like to. And then we're also currently collaborating with some folks in town to make sure that there's some good spots in town where folks can stop and pick it up. Plus, it'll be at our facility and also through
And
the
we're
Idaho
going to
Writers
arrange
League.
some book signings,
Yes.
too. I've 20 authors at a book signing. Can you imagine what a hoot that will be?
And can you give us a general idea about what it's going to cost for the book?
We've decided the book will cost $15, and all of the proceeds will go directly to the Children's Village.
You need to hire me as an agent if you're only going to do $15. That's an
right.
incredible prize. That's really
But
great.
one of the philosophies behind that, Janelle, is to make it available for the families that maybe can't afford literature in their home.
For
And
all the children
That's
to
right,
enjoy.
for all the children. So we compromise down the middle of the road, but there may be some special releases that first event that could be a little bit higher because they might go with the print of the artwork. We're talking about that now and haven't finalized all of that yet. But they can certainly order it by contacting us, and we'll have posted all of the locations in town, in Spokane, everywhere that they can
And
order.
at $15, the nice thing is, I've had that experience with my own book. People buy it as gifts. They don't just go buy one. They'll buy it for Christmas gifts or all that, birthday gifts. So that's a good price, I think.
Patty, I want to ask you about the Idaho Writers League, and I understand that you have some events coming up too, and there may be people who say, oh, I would like to get involved in writing some children's stories, or I have some some stories from my youth that I would like to tell someone. How can they become a member of the Idaho Writers League, and then what kinds of activities do you have coming up?
Well, we have a wonderful activity coming up just in a few weeks, and that is the Writers' Fair. This will be the second annual Writers' Fair. It will be at the Coeur d'Alene Inn, and it is, May 31st. I'm sorry, May 31st. I have so many dates in my head, but that's it, May 31st. And what we're going to do is have all of the different writers, come and talk about writing for their genre, and also this year give workshops. And one of our main speakers this year is Marcia Preston. She is editor and publisher of Byline Magazine, which is a magazine for writers, and she's coming from Oklahoma to speak. In fact, it was Marcia Preston that I was going to hear in Montana when I stopped in the bar and heard the story that became Hollywood the hard way. So that was, I mean, it's a small world, that's it.
So that's one of your events. Now, Tom, we've talked a little bit about the importance of reading to children and the importance of children being able to read children's stories and that kind of thing. Why is it so important, though, do you think?
Well, I think it's a very good question. I'm probably not the best person to answer that, but I think it's communication from adult to children, and it's a form of support mechanism, comfort zone to the children.
Sharing.
Yeah, and sharing, yeah. Time with children by adults. I think we've all missed a lot of that. I know I have in my life. I look back on it. I think I wished I had done a little more of this than I have, and so I think it would enhance that for sure.
And although we love television, books are wonderful too.
Yes, and need to use them more.
Back to you, Patty. And from our past experiences and all, you said already on the program that a number of the authors for the children's stories have not done that before.
Right.
And you convinced them, excuse me, in relation to this. Tell us a little bit about, since you're willing to be very versatile in your writing, how is it different to write children's stories versus like your book on the cowboy and going west, and others do romance novels and all. How do you have to shift in your thinking and processes, and how do you at these workshops encourage authors to do variety of writing?
That really is a good question, and what it involves is being able, for the writer to be able to shift their thinking outside the box, as it were. And like for this, they were given parameters for Kaleidoscope that basically applies to any genre in writing, and that is it has to have a great beginning, it has to have some sort of conflict, rising tension, a climax, and then a satisfying ending. And there's really no difference between that than there is in a full-length novel, except number of pages. So
and you're writing somewhat different to different audience.
That's right. That's right. You know, for instance, we have in this, you tone down the intellectual level. You don't write to children 9 to 14 as though you were a Harvard grad, you know, in that tone. And so it's a matter of just shifting into a different mindset. And it's good for a writer. I think it's great for a writer. I've written mysteries, mainstream, all kinds of things. And I enjoyed this very much. Getting to be a kid again, like you said.
I would also suppose that when you move from one other one and you move in a new area and discipline yourself, then when you go back to where you do most of your writing, that even makes that better.
What it does is raise your level of awareness about what to do, what not to do, what to include. It is. I think it's good. I think all writers should try it. You know, maybe not professionally, because they sort of get you in your genre and make you stay there. But as far as this is a fun thing to do with all these stories.
Now, since you're not going to be on the program next week,
right.
We'll have some other guests. I don't want you to leave without, I need to know more about the cat. So you share us a little more about the story for a lot of our wonderful viewers who will not be able to be there when this book is released. And of course, I said we'll have more back later on it, but I think our audience appreciate a little more depth about one of the stories in the book.
Well, his name is Ivan Pusikov, True Russian Blue. And his ancestors are aristocrats from the old country. But now he is an American. He has a credit card and he watches television. And his office and his home are in North Idaho, where it's cold, as you would expect a true Russian blue to do. Well, he gets a CAX, which is a cat equivalent of a fax. And it's signed by President Sox, President of United States Cats. And first, she asks him to catch this international feline criminal, which he does. And he does such a good job that she asks him to come to that's the first story, where he catches Alexander the Persian, who's trying to come to Coeur d'Alene to take all the cats back to Persia. Well, he does such a good job at that President Sox asks him to come to the White House to do the security for the International Peace Summit. Let's just say Ivan is a cat who does not lack for self-esteem. All through the book, he lets us know just how great he is. He has beautiful gray fur, and he says, "My fur is so magnificent, sometimes I scare myself." Well, we go through this adventure with him, and there are characters that show up for the International Peace Summit, like Yasser Arakat, Yabin Pussenheimer, Sir Edward Puss from Britain, Tabby McTavish from...
Patty,
Need I go on?
Patty, where do you get all this?
Fidel Castro, and of course the ultimate one is Saddam Hussein.
Well, I have to say, in relation to your story, I wonder if in your story that there's any news about President Sox not getting along with Buddy, and one of them had to leave home, and since then Buddy has unfortunately was hit by a car.
Yeah, right.
And so, but does that wind up in your story?
No, but that might be
Another
series
story?
number 3, right?
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to give you an idea.
Good.
Janelle, we have about 4 minutes left.
Have you read some of the stories in the book as well, Tinka?
Well, I have to tell you, Janelle, that I have tiptoed into the living room when the Writers League are reading stories to the children, and they are spellbound. And the staff, and don't let her mislead you by thinking this is strictly children's stories. The staff are just spellbound too, and it is a true delight. And your imagination can just take off. And it's been such a thrill working with this group. They are so creative. And the changes in the children when they start to be a part of this writing process and hearing how it's developing. One of the young ladies is even going to some of the meetings to understand how you start with a beginning blank piece of paper, put your creative ideas down, edit, and the whole process, and they are thrilled. They come back why their self-esteem has improved so much by being a part of this project. So I can't tell you, all of the wonderful benefits, but no, I've not had the privilege of actually having these in my hand. They're kind of a secret until they get published. So.
And tell me too, what makes a good reader, though? When the children are listening, what do they respond to?
What I see from these wonderful, talented folks who are reading to the children is that they are enthusiastic. They have a creativeness in their voice and in their inflection of the words and the way they're presenting it, and et cetera. They're totally spellbound themselves, and that enthusiasm rubs off on your audience. So, as you just saw Patty, being delighted with these wonderful characters and the names that she's created for them, that just spills over into the children. And they see most of them, Janelle, have not had literature as a part of their daily life. So to see someone else thoroughly enjoying it, it's changed their outlook on what fun can be and where you can find joy and pleasure and how you can learn and, like I said, your creative imagination. So it's just been a wonderful experience working with this group of folks, seeing the changes in our children and this group.
And Tom, you have also had the opportunity, at least I know you've heard Patty's story.
Well, I'm in the wine business.
Yes.
And we had a glass of wine at a reading that she gave. That's why I did that earlier. I hate to see her give it away, but it goes on, and it's priceless. And she really, truly is so proud of herself.
No, Ivan's proud of himself.
It is
I'm
so
just
great.
speaking for Ivan.
I know that. It's really great.
I have a friend in the state of Washington, and she is a professor at college, and she represents another person who writes poetry and does artwork, and she always declares that she's not the person, that she's just simply representing this other individual.
One thing I neglected to mention, and I should have, is that we have poets that are going to be in Kaleidoscope as well. We have some wonderful poets. You've met Betty Rorscheib here, had a guest. She's Idaho Poet of the Year. And she has poems, and we have quite a few poems in there too. So it includes poetry as well as stories.
Well, I want to thank all three of you so very much. We're out of time, but it's been a delight, and Janelle and I have had a great time with you. And Patty, I'll remind you again that we will be having you and some other guests back, and as Tom said, we can finish this wonderful story and other stories too.
Okay.
One of the things this program does that we delight on is letting people know about books and the content, and we love interviewing authors. And Tom and Tinka, thank you for all you're doing. Thank you for what you're doing for the children. You're very, very helpful to our community. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us again next week at the same time. We'll continue the discussion. Until then, please have a good week. I am Tony Stewart.
Recorded on the campus of North Idaho College, Public Forum is the longest-running in-house college production on PBS. Each episode is pre-recorded live and is an educational outreach from North Idaho College. Please join us at this same time next week for another edition of Public Forum on this public television station. Welcome to Public Forum, a community outreach program produced at North Idaho College on the shores of Lake Coeur d'Alene. Featuring guests from around the globe addressing a wide variety of subjects, Public Forum serves to educate and enlighten. Please join host and moderator, political scientist Tony Stewart, in welcoming today's guest.
I wish to welcome you back for our second week of our 2-week series, and we had a great time last week, and we have one of our guests back and 2 new guests this time. And we're really talking, first of all, about a book that's titled Kaleidoscope, a collection of tantalizing tales. And I have a copy of the book here. Got a wonderful, beautiful design, and one of our guests today designed this, and I want to show the other side of the book. And we want to talk about some of the 20 stories that are in here, but secondly, we want to talk about how this particular book and its publishing is contributing to a wonderful cause for children. And so with that, I would like to welcome to the program, first of all, someone's been on the program before, Mary Smith. Welcome back. You are one of those wonderful authors, and you've had such an instrumental part to play with the Idaho Writers League. You are really kind of the backbone of that organization in so many ways, and welcome to the program, and congratulations on this new publication.
Thank you, Tony. It's been a great experience.
And I'm also pleased to welcome back from last week Tinka Schaefer, who is the first vice president of the Children's Village Foundation, and also you're the director of development. And I know your organization is the one that's benefiting by this wonderful publication for your Children's Village, which is located in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and helps children out of very difficult situations. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Tony, for having us here.
And our third guest we're equally so pleased to have with us is Marge Murphy, and her husband was on last week, Tom. Marge is an artist and a sculptor, and congratulations on this beautiful design that you've done for the book.
Thank you, Tony. It's really fun to be here, and it's been a very fun project for me.
And I'm always pleased to have our regular panelist, Chanel Burke, and she'll start today's questioning.
My first question will be for Tinka. Can you tell us what Kaleidoscope really is? What is that book about?
Well, it is a Kaleidoscope. When we first heard the name, and I'll let Marge kind of tell how it just became an inspiration for her to name it Kaleidoscope, but it was so perfect because to me it meant a wide variety of colors on the spectrum, and our children often have such a wide variety of life's experiences, but in those experiences one can see beauty as you would in a kaleidoscope, which is really lots of, for most of us, broken little pieces of glass, but it comes together in a whole way to make a beautiful scene. And this is a kaleidoscope of stories, and I wanted our children to recognize that their lives can be beautiful, and with a lot of support and help things can turn around to really see the pretty side of life.
And there are 20 stories in this book.
Yes.
And Marge, you designed the cover, which is a beautiful cover.
Oh, thank you.
And can you tell us how you thought about Kaleidoscope? I mean, how you arrived at that particular name for the book, and then how you began to have some ideas to put into the cover.
Right. Well, it was kind of a idea. All of us were meeting, Mary and Larry and my friend Patty, and she said, well, we'll do the book if you'll do the cover. And I said, oh no, I am not that good that I could do a cover of a book. And I said, what's the title? And she said, well, we don't have a title yet. So she said, think about it. Everybody go home and think about it. So we did, and that night I went to sleep and I thought, oh, I could never do this because there's so many stories. How would you possibly pick a name when there are all these writers? And so I fell asleep, and then when I woke up and I just thought, there's just so many of them. It's just like a kaleidoscope, and it just popped right into my head. So I got up and I called Patty and I said, Patty, what do you think? And she said, that's wonderful. So I just started sketching angles and painting, and I did one proof first and took it to them to see if they liked it. And so that's basically how it was. And we added a few of the little pictures of the stories into the cover.
But it's very colorful and very beautiful colors.
Well, thank you.
It
It was very fun doing it because each square that I did, I wasn't sure how it would come out. So it was like Tinka said, just pieces of color.
Look at the kangaroo.
We'll show this again.
Tell about that, Marge. Tell them about the kangaroo.
Oh, the kangaroo is Mary's story, and I was just about through, and Patty said, oh, we need a kangaroo in there, and I had one square left, and it wasn't quite ready to fit, so he kind of enters into one of the other squares. And then Patty came to me, and she said, oh, the cat doesn't look aristocratic enough. So I called my daughter in Seattle, and I said, how do you draw an aristocratic cat? So
you succeeded.
So there is a cat and a kangaroo, and there are many other animals.
And then
too.
the spaceship. That was very interesting, about a boy and a spaceship lands a little bit like E.T. The story kind of follows that. And then there's a story of a little boy looking out the door in school, and the lightning flashes, and it takes him back into time. So we put the lightning in there. And then there's Tinka wanted mother reading to the child, so they're all kind of, put together. And then the little girl with the balloons goes around the world.
And this is a fox, is it?
That's
Yes.
the tail of the kangaroo.
Oh, the kangaroo. That's the
That's
kangaroo
the
there.
tail.
That's his tail.
Yeah.
Very, very beautiful cover, I think. And Mary, you were one of the authors inside the book.
Oh,
So now
yes.
tell us about some of the stories that are in the book. We found out a little bit about them when we were talking about the cover, but now we want to find out more about what's inside the book.
And we did hear last week from Patty about this sophisticated cat.
yes.
That's some cat.
That is some cat, and it's really awfully hard to compete with that cat. That cat not only is aristocratic on Patty's pages, but he wants to be on all of them. We've had a real hard time. We've dragged in horses and kangaroos and all kinds of things to kind of tame that little beast. But we all had different ideas about what we wanted to write about.
And would you tell us that it was a project of your Writers League?
It started, as Patty had said at last week. She told you about how we did the Christmas stories. And then we had this wonderful opportunity that the Murphys have offered us. And so we took beginning writers. These people didn't even have an idea that they could do this, and we thought they could. And attitude is a marvelous thing. If you think you can, you can. And especially when you have Patty and Mary behind you shoving. And so these poor souls, bless their precious hearts, they have lost sleep. They have done revision after revision after revision, and I could go on a few more. And they have absolutely worked harder than they ever thought they could. And they have produced work they didn't know was in them.
And it's been great for them personally.
Oh, personally, they have compressed a college course into 2 months. I'm serious. These people have written until 2 and 3 in the morning and gone up and gone to work. I feel very sorry for their bosses. But they have produced wonderful, talented, well-written stories. We have had editors from our group who have just given unstintingly of their time to edit these books and send them back for more revisions. We have had people say, even we have more stories than we have room for them on the pages. And so we had to deliver that news yesterday, that some won't be chosen, not because they're not good stories, we can't put in more stories. And I've had 3 emails since last night and 2 phone calls saying, if mine doesn't get in, Mary, don't worry, because I have learned so much. And the other thing that's happened is the Children's Village have inspired us because we've all read to them, and we know them. We're writing to faces. We're writing to kids. And so it's a wonderful experience that we're having in so many ways.
So these are stories for children that can be enjoyed by adults.
Yes, and some of the stories, my own story, which is the cowboy, and I want you to know that was inspired by Louise Shattuck's Rodeo, Idaho book. I love rodeos, and I love her book, and I was at a total loss. I don't write for children. I don't even tell children stories. I read to children. But here I am with this, I've got to do this. You're the president, Mary. We're not going to press without a story from you,
And you can't be asking other people to do it for the first time and not do it yourself.
Exactly, Tony. It's awful. So here I am, like a rat in a trap. And so I go ahead and I'm reading Louise's book, and I'm thinking, kids love rodeos. Kids love horses. I'm going to do one. And we needed one for older kids. So that I thought, oh, this will be good. And then Patty's husband says, I've always wanted to read a story about a kangaroo. So I thought, oh, okay, well, we'll have a cowboy with a kangaroo. And then, and so I'm sitting there one night knitting my little things, and it came across my head, I love Dee Pickett. Dee Pickett is a wonderful Idaho 1986. He is the Cowboy of the Year, and he's also in honors and so forth. So anyway, this young man is a real hero. And this boy, I thought, and so I named the boy Dee Pickett Kucera, and that just came right out of the blue. And so we have Dee Pickett Kucera and the Wild Kangaroo Roundup.
Mary, you're just like Patty. You are just such an incredible storyteller. You have the same talent to both write and then to express it verbally. Oh, what a gift. I'm going to go back over and talk with Marge a moment. Marge, you've also had the opportunity to hear some of these stories.
Yes,
at
I
this
have,
point.
and read them.
And read them. And you're in the field in the sense that you're an artist and a sculptor, and that all this ties together in the arts and the humanities. Share with our viewers what you think of. Last week we asked on the program, one of the other guests, why is storytelling and reading to children so important?
Well, as I read some of these stories, I thought, as a child, when you hear stories and they give you the sense that you can get out and do things like Tinka said, and all these stories are not only for children, they're for adults, and even the adults that read them get a sense of feeling about themselves, that they can do things. And I think most of these stories, as the readers will read them, will find that they are give them an incentive to go out and do things, and especially the children. Mm-hmm. I went with Patty to read to the children the day she read, and one little boy was sitting next to me, and he said, "Wow," and he said, "Could I have her autograph?" And I said, "Oh, I'm sure she'll give it to you." So Patty said, "Oh." He said, "Well, what did you do?" And Patty said, "She did the cover." He says, "Could I have your autograph?" And I said, "Well, I'm not that." Oh, he said, "Well, that's okay." He said, "Because I'm a writer too." And I said, "Oh." And he said, "Do you want to see my writings?" I said, "I would love to." And of course, that day I didn't get to see him, but I said, "I'll come back and see him." And he said, "I draw too." So, I mean, it just made them come out. And he hadn't said a word all during the reading.
So it really does something to their self-worth and esteem, which can change a life.
Right.
The other thing I was thinking of, Marge, is that we live, and throughout history that's been true some, but we're living in a very tense time, and there's a lot of violence and a lot of real serious problems. And by having something so positive for children, isn't that one of the great gifts of a book like this?
It is. And as we sat there and watched them read to these children, you just watch them enwrapped about, gee, somebody cares for me, somebody wants to come and read to us, and they just kind of would get closer to you and felt somebody does care. And I think that's
a very important
thing.
That is just eloquently said, and so there's just no way of knowing the worth of such a gift.
Right.
One other question, and that is, as people will purchase this book for parents, and when parents sit down and read with their children, doesn't that also create a kind of bond that you don't necessarily get from another type of activity?
Right, definitely. We were watching the news this morning, and it was one of the. It was on the Space Shuttle commander, and he every day videotaped a message to his children and Spirit, and they have those messages still. They'll always have them with them, and that's what I think is great about reading to your children. I mean, he would read that to them, and they'd watch the video when he wasn't there. So I think it's very important that they have that feeling that their parents do care and do take the time to do it.
It makes a difference in their lives. Right. I'm going to turn to Mary and then back to Janelle. Just like with Patty, we're going to invite you back when this book is finished. We'll go through this book on the show. It'll take a couple of shows to do that. But I don't want to let you get away without I need to know a little about this. It's the kid in me too, but I need to know a little more about the cowboy and the kangaroo, about what happened in this story.
Well, Tony, I'm not going to tell you the end.
No, we'll save that for another time.
This is a young man who's very brilliant. I mean, even his dad says he's a smart kid. And he can't figure out how he was born into a rodeo family because he is not athletic. He's a big kid, he's tall and gangly. And he feels because his dad was a pro All-American and his brother is pro collegiate and his sister rides the barrels and is a winner, and here he can't rope a steer. He can't do anything.
He's the ugly duckling in the family.
He is. And his dad says you don't have to belong to you can't have to do rodeo. It's not that important. He says it is to me. If you're born into a rodeo family, you got to do something in a rodeo.
I know where this is going.
and so this poor kid, and he's very determined.
Yes.
He didn't get where he did academically by lying in front of the television. So he is out here and he's driving his family crazy because he is going to wrestle a steer. He has been taking wrestling in school, and so he knows the holes, and he is going to wrestle this steer if it kills him and his family. And it's getting really bad because we're out there in January inside an old cold arena, and it's just, I mean, he's spitting out an arena of dirt, and it's ugly. So what happens is he reaches out for the steer. He's going to get it right. They've been doing it for 3 hours. He reaches out to get that thing, the right arm through the hoof, the horn, and the left arm, and twists that head, and he reaches out, and the steer racing across this arena, those little things will just all of a sudden, just no reason at all, they'll just put those front feet out and stop cold. So he reaches and grabs air, falls on the arena floor, turns over. That steer kicks him thoroughly in the seat of the pants, and he lands in Australia.
Oh, he kicked him that far.
He kicked him that far.
I
So
see.
anyway, there you go.
So there's your connection.
I couldn't figure out where the kangaroo was coming
Well,
from.
I can simply say that if Mary says she won't finish the story, I guess I'll have to get the book.
There you go. Oh,
Okay.
yes.
With that, Janelle?
That leads to my question for Tinka. If people want to buy one of these books, where can they get one?
We will have the book listed on our website, which is www.thechildrensvillage.org, and there'll be a link to purchase the book online, and it will be at our facility. The Idaho Writers League will have access to it, and we'll list a bunch of places in town that will also be able to sell it for us, so we're really excited about that.
So people from out of the area, if they
Oh,
want
yes.
to, they can go onto your website.
That's right.
And then they can purchase one of the books.
That's right. We'll have that posted, and the minute it's released, and our release date is May 17th at the Veers event, the public wine tasting.
And that's the next thing I wanted to
Yes.
ask about. Mary, can you tell us about the special,
Yeah.
or Marge, about the very special event that's going to be held with
Yes.
regard to the release of the book?
Yes, it's my husband and I for several years, as Tom probably told them last week, that we have been very special in raising money for the Children's Village. It's been our goal to help them with the buildings and whatnot. So we were so excited when we thought that we could do this book and maybe we would make the money from the book, that they would have an income. And so we are very excited about this. But the wine event will be held at the Coeur d'Alene Resort, and the book will be sold there too. I believe that we're going to have authors there. Is that right, Mary? Too.
Whatever you want,
at.
we're there.
We'll be there. So we hope to sell it for a little more at the wine event with the signatures on it, and therefore the money then will go to the village. So we're very excited about this.
It's a wonderful project, and you're to be commended. You and Tom
Thank
as
you.
well are to be commended for helping with this, because the Children's Village is a wonderful project and a wonderful.
They've helped
way.
so many children over the years. How many?
We've had
Tinka?
over 900 since we opened our doors in 1990. And we are the only facility around that will take children that don't reside with their parents. If they have no funding, it does not matter. We will not restrict. And so we've raised a lot of children in our community, helped them to get back on their feet, and supported families in getting back together too. And right now, 100% of these proceeds will go towards building our third home, because we're at capacity and we hate having to turn away children. So we've got plans on the table for building our third home on our 15 acres here in Coeur d'Alene.
And it's a safe haven for children. It really is
a
safe
wonderful
haven for
place. I'm
children,
very
and a
proud of
place
it.
to be. Mary, now the Idaho Writers League has some special activities coming up too, as well, that are different from those that are just with the Kaleidoscope book. But can you tell us about your annual fair?
Oh, I would just love to. Our annual Writers' Fair is our second annual Writers' Fair. We're very optimistic. We're holding it at the Coeur d'Alene Inn this year. The resort was lovely to us, but they had a chance to have a 4-day conference coming, and we were kind of right in the middle, and so we decided that was not a good thing for them nor for us. So we are at the Inn this year, May 31st, last day of May. It's going to start at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we're going to go till 5 o'clock at night. It's a rapid fire situation. People come in, and we have speakers for every 25 minutes. We will take a break this year. People kind of got brain dead last year. But we will have 7 speakers and we'll have a lovely luncheon. And then in the afternoon, we're going to have some workshops. We have exhibit tables. We just want people to come who want to write and to network. That's one of our major things, is networking. These people that talk to us are genre writers. We're still in the process. Patty, I think last week, told you of some of the people we have coming. We're very excited about it. It does something that we haven't found anywhere else. It gives people an overview, and it encourages beginning writers. We have such talent.
Is it open to the public?
It is open to the public. We would take reservations because we have to know how our seating is going to be. We will take the applications, or the registration forms are now available in the Coeur d'Alene Press, and we have till the 28th of May. We cannot. Last year we were taking them right up till 10 minutes before the door closed, and it drove everybody crazy, including the resort. So we won't do that again.
Would you please explain for our viewers what you mean when you say genre writers?
Genre writers are the way, if you want to start writing, you don't just say, oh, I have a wonderful story, and write it. You write, if you want to get published and sold, you have to write what you walk into a bookstore and you see the signs up there. You go pick a sign and look at the books. Mystery, romance, children's, young adult, Western. All of those signs are a genre.
And so it's a style of writing for a particular audience.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So that when you walk over to, she says it so well, doesn't she? She's just terrific. We walk over
She's
to...
had 29 years experience doing this.
So you walk over to the shelf. You walk in and you look around and you say, oh, where are the mysteries? And so they point you, and that's where you go. And so if you don't write something that fits into that genre, then it's called mainstream. But you don't get to be a mainstream author until they say, I love it when they say, oh, first book. Oh, I'm kidding. You know, this is so ridiculous. J.R. Rowling's, you know, how that was her first book, Harry Potter. Well, she had written some 20 before that. You know, we practice. And then one day we go to the editor and say, here, I've got a book. Well, that's your first book to get published.
It's a little bit of difference.
It's a whole lot of difference. They just never tell you about all the practice. But anyway, does that answer your question?
Yes, it sure does.
Okay.
Thank you.
We all go and we're busy, and it's kind of like shopping. And that's something that I don't like doing. You know, if I'm going to go buy some clothes, I know before I get there, and in 20 minutes I'm out of there. But at the bookstore, it's longer. But secondly, I don't have so much time. And so even though one might go to a certain section, as you're talking about, isn't the not only the book design, but also the title very key? Because as I go down through there, it's the title of the book that may cause me to even pull it off the shelf. So Mary, why don't you share a little bit with us about advice to authors, how much thought should go into the first opportunity, maybe the only opportunity you're going to have to get a potential reader to take that off the shelf is the title.
Well, unfortunately, or fortunately, I've named all my books. They've taken my title, but that is very rare, I understand. Most of the time, the publisher reserves the right to name the book. And since this is self-published in that sense, we can name it and it sticks. Right. But most of the time, you have what you call a working title. And so you can work with that and you can think it's terrific, and it comes out in a totally different title that you don't think is very good at all. But it doesn't matter. They think it's good. But you're right, Tony. The title is what catches people.
Publishers, that might be one of the reasons why they insist on that, even though the author's so deeply involved in the work, and certainly the title has got to come out of that work. At least they probably are thinking that they can come up with a title that might be more attention-drawing.
Yes. They reserve that right. So you can't count on your title ever being it.
But at times I suppose that's negotiable to some extent.
I'm sure Stephen King can have just about anything he wants.
I would say he could. There's another publisher who would like to take his title.
That's right. That's one thing, though. Do you know titles are not copyrightable? So if you like somebody's title, it's quite all right if you use it.
Really?
Oh, yes.
I had never heard that before.
Yes.
That's interesting.
That's why this on Amazon.com, if you look up a certain title, you will see
But
a
that's
whole
right, you'll
list.
see a list of them,
Yes,
won't you?
exactly the same title, different authors.
But they better stop there. You better not just reprint the whole book after that.
Yeah, right.
Right. Janelle Burke.
Well, this has been a very interesting conversation, and I want to give each one of you an opportunity to say something about the Kaleidoscope project that
Each one in
was,
about 20 seconds.
it was special. And let's start with you, Marge.
Well, the special part about this is that I got to meet a lot of new people and I got to learn what writers do. So I said I had never done a book cover. Well, I had no idea. It's not the cover, but it's what's in the book. And I just am so happy that they liked my work and that I am a part of this project.
And how about you, Tika?
And I'm just thrilled to be a part of the project too. I second what Marge just said, and meeting wonderful folks like herself and the Idaho Writers League members is very moving in the work that I do, the community coming forward to help children. If folks are interested, they can certainly call the Children's Village to find out more about the book. We're in the phone book and we'd be happy to refer them on. And that we can't say enough nice things about folks like the Murphys who care about kids in our community to help.
Great experience for us, for the people, members of the Writers League, to actually be able to say, I have a book published, when it could have taken perhaps years for that to happen.
On that, what a great note to end. On behalf of Janelle and our staff, thank all three of you. It's just been a delight to have you here, and I always look forward to programs in which we're dealing with writers and artists. It's always very, very stimulating intellectually and lots of fun, and just been such a pleasure having you here. Ladies and gentlemen, with this we bring to conclusion a 2-week program on this wonderful book, Kaleidoscope, a collection of tantalizing tales. Please be with us again next week at the same time. We'll interview on another issue. Until then, please have a good week. I am Tony Stewart.
Recorded on the campus of North Idaho College, Public Forum is the longest-running in-house college production on PBS. Each episode is pre-recorded live and is an educational outreach from North Idaho College. Please join us at this same time next week for another edition of Public Forum on this public television station.